April 2018, exactly 20 years since the Good Friday Agreement was signed, which put an end to the 30-year conflict in Northern Ireland known as the Troubles. For the last 3 years, I have been studying in England. Today I am visiting home to learn more about my country's violent past and to explore the generational gap in our understanding of what really happened here 20 years ago and how it is affecting Northern Ireland today. I was born in the small country village of Clinchy in Northern Ireland in 1997, which was 1 year before the Good Friday Agreement was signed. I felt the need to go on a journey to understand what it was really like to grow up during the Troubles and how it affected those who witnessed the violence. In an attempt to do so, I decided to interview my mum and her sister about their experiences.
I've actually blocked a lot of it out, and I don't like talking about it. I think it was to do with the age it was, and I don't like to think back on it.
There were hard times.
It's still painful.
When you heard a siren going, your stomach tightened in knots. When you heard a bomb going off, did it blow up anybody you knew? Did it injure? Or where was the bomb? There was all these feelings, and I had that feeling, tenseness, right up until I got married. My first abiding memory of moving up to Clinchy in County Down was, why is there no army about? Why is there no helicopters? It was such a rural area and so peaceful. And I thought, I'm so glad that I'm here, because if I'm going to have children, they'll be brought up without the fear that I felt.
I understood that it would have been traumatic for them growing up in the Troubles. However, I was unaware that my auntie found it so difficult to talk about, as she is usually quite an open person. I had never really heard my mum talk about her childhood like this before, about the fear of sirens and bombs going off around them. It really highlighted to me how lucky I was to grow up without these fears.
From a very young age, we had a sense of living in peace and not living in peace.
We were right away affected by it because our parents had a restaurant and it was blown up without any warning. And an older sister was hit by some of the wreckage, and she was found lying outside where our house was. I was only 11, 12, and I was thinking, how can those people be like that? Why would they want to harm us? We've never done anybody any harm. And why do they want to blow us up? No regard for human life. You may have been talking to somebody who behind your back would have killed you because of their idealisms. And there's good and bad in every sector.
Mm-hmm.
Those illegal armies had no right to take lives.
Every time the news was on, my mother, it didn't matter if it was a soldier, a British soldier, or an IRA man or a loyalist was killed, she would say, some mother's heart is breaking tonight, because a life's a life and nobody has the right to take it.
I couldn't imagine what it was like to have that fear growing up at such a young age and not understanding why it was happening. Growing up, I was never fully aware of the divide until the age of 14, and even then it didn't seem like such a big deal to me because there was no threat of bombings or attacks.
Because our village was so near the border, there was an army camp put up, and you had all the different helicopters, Chinook helicopters and all the army moving in and out of the village when things were happening. You knew because there was a helicopter high in the sky and things like that.
I still have a fear of helicopters to this day. And I now live near a hospital, and if patients are being flown by helicopter, I sort of go on high alert when I hear a helicopter overhead, and then I have to realise it's all right. It's not Troubles related.
I was shocked to hear how even the small details from the Troubles can and still do affect my auntie today. It made me more curious to find out any other significant moments that they remember from the Troubles.
Me and my twin were going down to our friend's house, and lo and behold, the IRA had just hijacked a bus on the main Strabane Road, and we're sitting at a light, and a gunman came over to our car, and my dad was in the security forces, and his friend, they both fought in the First World War as well.
Second World War.
Second World War. And they wanted to take the car off him, but he went to start the car up to go forward, and the car revved, made a noise, and the boys jumped out of the way, and we got away that time. But it was scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's only a couple of things that has happened during our lifetime, but a lot more as well.
It was interesting to notice that even though the thought of a gunman coming over to your car is terrifying, my mum and auntie were still able to laugh about how the rev of the car scared the gunmen away.
I mean, the people that we have lost as well. I mean, my friend that I grew up with, I went to her wedding 1 week, and 6 weeks later we went to his funeral, her husband. He was a policeman, and he was out on patrol with 2 other policemen, and there was a roadside bomb detonated from a hill, and they were blown to pieces. And she was only 6 weeks married and pregnant, she was.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that poor girl on that day, when she had so many hopes and dreams that were wiped away from her, she didn't know how she was going to get through life.
Mm-hmm.
To see that happening to your friends and to your family around you, it really has an impact on your life. For me, it has in a positive way. You want to be more determined to get on in life. You don't want to keep on fighting. I mean, simplistically, these troubles were about whether you were Catholic or Protestant. I know there was people on both sides didn't want what the others were fighting for, or vice versa. But they just wanted to get on and live a normal life. It was so hard. It was depressing. The fear you felt. So you were one night sitting in a lay-by eating chips outside Derry, Londonderry, and gunmen cocked a rifle, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that rifle jammed, and you got away. Only for that, you would have been
Brown bread.
When my mum began to talk about the people that she had lost around her, I could tell by my auntie's body language that it was becoming more difficult for her to talk about it. I still wanted to find out whether they could ever imagine peace for Northern Ireland.
There will always be factions that want to rebel against society and the
Division of Ireland.
yeah.
That was one thing about the Troubles. We had no hope, and it's an awful thing to have lost all hope.
We had a long time going through the Troubles. There's still a bit of undercurrent yet, but you've hope for the future now, hope for your children and their children.
Even though my mum and auntie grew up during such an awful period of time in Northern Ireland and witnessed a lot of heartbreak, they still have a positive mindset that peace will be achieved in Northern Ireland. After talking with my mum and auntie, I then wanted to discuss with a younger generation what it was like for them growing up in Northern Ireland, and to find out whether or not they have the same positive mindset. I interviewed one of my close friends and her sister.
All I know about the Troubles is that it was just Catholics and Protestants that really didn't get on, and were just basically having a mini war, which you thought it was.
Yeah, well, luckily I wasn't born when that was happening, so...
I could already tell I would be able to relate more with what Katie and Judy had to say, because we are similar in age, and they also grew up knowing there was a divide but not knowing the full details about it.
Like, literally, Catholics and Protestants are exactly the same. They're just
Yeah.
very small-minded people that don't understand they're exactly the same.
Already it is clear that most younger generations are aware of the conflict between the religions, and it was refreshing to hear that both Judy and Katie don't see a reason of why there should be a divide.
Like, in our house, my brother is just like my dad, and he is like pro-Protestants, hate Catholics, whereas we and my mum and all my mum's family they don't care who you are or where you're from.
Yeah.
We went to integrated schools, but my dad is only the way he is because of his dad, and his whole family are like that.
So it just keeps like.
So it really just
going
depends
on.
what family you're from.
It was interesting for me to discover the dynamics of their family and realise how it differs from my family, which could be because of the different areas that we grew up in.
Your boyfriend.
I have a Catholic boyfriend that I was told I was not allowed to have, and we had a big family fight, and I had to move out of my house for a whole month because he was a Catholic, and my dad is completely against that because that's how he's been brought up. If Mum was a Catholic, then Dad would never have. He wouldn't even spoke to her if she was a Catholic because of why his background.
Was he like that back then? Though? We don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Actually, Mum said before that if he saw a Celtic man, he'd just go over and whack him one out in the street. He's changed now. So I've got a Catholic boyfriend and he invites him over now. So
I couldn't believe that Judy was forced to move out just because her boyfriend is from the opposite side of the community. However, it is obvious that times are still changing for Northern Ireland, as her dad has now accepted the fact that Judy has a Catholic boyfriend. Going on from this, I wanted to find out if either of them believe that peace will be achieved in Northern Ireland.
I don't think peace
so.
will ever be achieved in Northern Ireland.
No, it just wouldn't happen.
People are just too hot-headed for any peace to come.
Yeah. As much as we would want it to happen.
I think it's more peaceful
I think
than
it
it
would.
was before, but there will never be that sense of security. Whereas I would feel scared walking from town to my house at night because I have to walk through
The short
a
straw.
Catholic area to get into my area. So if you're walking through there at night and someone just sees you and thinks and comes over and like say like to ask you a question about, oh, do you know say this Catholic song or something,
Or if they watch you like walking down to the creek, they would
they'll
know
catch you out and you probably could
the
jump.
Protestant. Well,
I don't
don't
think
think
it'll
so.
ever be outlived though. I don't
No.
think, because like from my dad's point of view, like I think like literally all the men in his family have just been exactly the same because of how my granda was, my dad is like that, and because of how my dad's like, my brother's like that, and then I think it'll just get passed on down his family.
yeah.
So unless you can stop that, like cut the chain there, then there's always going to be those people that will always just want to start that fight with someone else.
Even though Judy and Katie realise the conflict has become less apparent in Northern Ireland, unfortunately they do not see full peace ever being achieved. Before moving to England, I didn't realise how different it was growing up in Northern Ireland and what impact the Troubles have on the ongoing conflict still to this day. Before this trip, I had never really been to the Catholic areas of Belfast due to the fact that I grew up in a Protestant family. But by travelling around all areas and witnessing all the wall murals about the city's violent history, I was able to appreciate the ongoing passion both sides still have for their idea of a perfect Ireland. Before speaking with my mum and her sister, I didn't realise just how much the Troubles had impacted them, particularly in my auntie's case. Nevertheless, I still have high hopes that there will one day be peace achieved in Northern Ireland.